All right, let's talk about the power grid of the future. We're diving into a really cool concept that's all about keeping our super high-tech cities humming along no matter what happens.
Think about it. Our cities are getting smarter every single day, right? Technology is just everywhere. But that leads to a pretty massive question. I mean, when everything from your traffic lights to your fridge needs power, how in the world do we make sure the lights, well, stay on?
And that question, simple as it sounds, really hits on a huge challenge for our cities. Let's just call it what it is, the urban energy problem.
So here's the deal. The more tech we cram into our cities, the more, well, fragile they can become if the power suddenly cuts out. And we're not just talking about your phone dying here. We're talking about the entire city grinding to a halt. The energy demand is already massive. And honestly, it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Okay, so if the old way of doing things just isn't cutting it anymore, what's the solution? Well, it turns out we need a much smarter approach, and that's where something called a microgrid comes in.
So what is a smart microgrid? You might see it called an MG. The easiest way to picture it is like a tiny local power grid. You know, just for a neighborhood, or maybe a hospital, or a university campus. The key thing is that it can be self-sufficient. It can basically create its own little energy island and keep running all on its own, even if the main grid has a problem.
And this is where you really see the genius of it. You know, our traditional grid, it's pretty much a one-way street. A giant power plant just pushes electricity out to everybody. It's big, it's centralized, and it's not very responsive. A smart microgrid, it totally flips that script. It's local, it's nimble, and, this is the important part, it's driven by data. It's like having a constant two-way conversation about energy use instead of just a one-way shot.
Yeah, that two-way conversation is really the secret sauce here. Which brings us to what makes this whole thing tick, the power of data.
You know, when we say smart microgrid, that word smart isn't just some marketing buzzword. It's literally the whole point. The system is smart because it's constantly collecting all this useful, real-time data on exactly how, when, and where energy is being used inside its little network.
Okay, so you've got this system, it's gathering tons and tons of data. What happens next? What does it do with all that information? Well, this is where it gets really cool. It uses that data to optimize the entire energy flow.
Let's just break down how that works. It's basically a simple process. Step 1, of course, is collecting all that energy data. Then, the system uses that info to fine-tune 3 key things. First, how it gets its power, that's procurement. Second, how it sends that power where it needs to go, that's distribution. And third, how that power actually gets used, and that's consumption.
So you can start to see how this all fits together, right? By constantly tweaking those 3 areas, getting the power, moving the power, and using the power, the microgrid creates this incredible, intelligent feedback loop. It's a system that's literally designed to get rid of waste and make things more reliable every step of the way.
All right, so we've got all this clever data and optimization happening, but what's the end game? What's the big payoff? Well, it brings us right back to where we started, making sure our smart cities can actually sustain themselves.
And, you know, the source material really nails it. The whole point of all this is ensuring smart cities can sustain energy needs. So yeah, it's not just about saving a few bucks on the electric bill, it's about building in resilience.
And that's really the takeaway here. By using data to get smarter, these microgrids build an energy system that's just better in every way. It's more efficient, which means less waste. It's way more responsive, so it can adapt on the fly. And when you put all that together, you get a much more sustainable city.
So, that leaves us with a pretty big thought to chew on. We've just seen how data can completely change the game for our energy grid. The question is, what's next? I mean, think about all the other systems in a city. Water, traffic, public transport. Which ones are next in line to be totally reinvented using this exact same kind of smart, data-driven approach?